Notice he stands there with his sleeves rolled just before the 7th minute. So I was warning him, don't do that to me, please. Well, we have a very interesting group here. The question is, what are we setting out to do? And if you notice that we've had a fair amount of speakers in the morning, and I'm just attempting to connect that. Essentially, the role of innovation has to be to transform the development of the state. I mean, over these years, and as he was introducing me, I'm sorry if I haven't introduced the organization. Our name is up there, so some of you may be wondering whether we are German. We have no connection with with the gentleman who spoke before me. It sounds Warnish in the end. If you read it backwards, it reads the word nowhere. Right? So the airborne is the word nowhere spelled backwards. And very interestingly, when you split it up, it becomes now here. Nowhere to now here, impossible to possible, hopelessness to hope. So when we were setting out 20 years ago, in one word, it spelled out the mission. And that's the mission we've lived all these years. And for me, the biggest mission for me and Erwan is, how can innovation be for India what quality was for Japan? The transforming agent. And transform what? Has to transform growth and development of people. So it cannot be that we have a hub which is greatly developed and the rest of the world around us is lagging behind. That is what the second speaker brought up. So how do we leverage innovation to make a true difference? It's not make in India, but for India. That's where we need innovation, isn't it? Unfortunately, the focus is everywhere else but that. And when I hear all these statistics of comparing India with the world, and there's a huge gap, I'm sure all of you have seen those daunting statistics. And which shows that if we go, and the conclusion at the end is a lot of people look at each other very cynically and say, if we go like this, it's going to take up 30 years to catch up. I'm sure you've experienced a discussion like that. But the assumption we are making is we'll follow the same path. Then it will take us 30 years to catch up, but who says we are going to follow the same path? We have an opportunity to innovate, to leapfrog the development curve, and not merely catch up. And to give you a very interesting illustration, I'm not just drawing from Karnataka, but from all our experiences across. You must have heard this, and I have, that in healthcare, India's infrastructure is 1/6 the world's best. I mean, of the developed economies, in terms of hospitals, doctors, nurses. So once again, to catch up, it's going to take up 30 years. You know, when we were exploring this whole field, we came across a remarkable innovation which happened, hold your breath, in Mongolia. Now, if we are 1/6, you can imagine what they would be. The nearest hospital, 30 to 40 kilometers away. But here is where innovation was involved. Rather than follow the usual, what would everybody have told them? All the experts were telling them increase hospitals, doctors, nurses. But what is the paradigm? Increase supply of healthcare. Well, why increase supply of healthcare? What about reducing the demand on healthcare? Increase the wellness of the nation so that less hospital doctors and nurses are needed. So they've partnered with Nippon Foundation to create a preventive healthcare know-how, wherein self-care kits, do-it-yourself kits, first aid kits were placed in each house, and they were educated in how to use it, and all of us are our first doctors in any case, right? I'm sure each one here is. The question is, can it be an educated first aid? And these educated first aid kits were placed in houses, and fascinatingly enough, the business model was post-paid. Now think about it, it's like your hotel mini bar, you pay based upon usage. A doctor goes around an area every 45 days, checks the family, and based upon what you've used, you pay. The number of people coming to hospitals reduced by over 50% in a year. Now imagine, now that is innovation. Now that's the paradigm shift that we are looking for. It doesn't need the next technology, actually needed an older technology, because the medicine were based on traditional Mongolian medicine, which is like our Ayurveda, an older know-how. What was missing was the insight. What was missing was the paradigm shift. But all the Western economies which are today being reeled under healthcare costs, they could learn a lot from Mongolia. Fascinating, isn't it? So that's really the opportunity sitting in front of us. So this may be Mongolia. In India, another paradigm shift which is gathering momentum is in the area of literacy. Now, reducing the literacy challenge has been in front of us for so many years. We've struggled with it. Now, how can innovation make a difference there and leapfrog it? A team from Planet Read happened to redefine the problem. Now, again, a paradigm shift in how we look at the problem. We divide the world into literates and illiterates. Now to bring up the illiterates, you can imagine what's needed. The classical experts will tell you doctors, teachers, adult literacy classes, and adult literacy classes don't have time to go there for them because they're too busy earning their living. So what do? The paradigm shift that happened here was to re-examine, it's not just literates and illiterates. Actually, another world opened up the space in between. There are a huge number of what is now called neo-literates. Now, redefining the problem in itself, the paradigm shift was, and we discovered that this team discovered that 340 million people are actually neo-literates. And who are neo-literates? People who can read the alphabet but can't put words together. You know, so actual literacy is when you can read, right? But just, you know A, B, C, D, but you can't put words together. And what is the solution? Now, fascinatingly enough, what a simple idea, same language subtitling. All the programs that you see on television at home, imagine if they are subtitled in the same language. I'm sure when you've seen a movie or a film subtitled in the same language, you find yourself reading it. And the moment you can hear a word, you can see it. You start putting words to what's being said and you start following it. This is gathering enormous momentum. Can you imagine the cost of this solution versus the infrastructure heavy solution that we spoke about earlier? Now compare these two. The Mongolian solution and the literacy one. What a fascinatingly simple idea in hindsight, but what a powerful one. Now that's really the role that you and me and this group is set out to create. Not to create an even more complex innovation solution. The job of innovation is to simplify solutions. How does it go with the flow? And rather than going against it. So at each point in time, and to share with you, when we are today, we work with corporates, but we also work with a lot of states in India, in finding ways to accelerate the development of the state. What could be now innovations there? And one area which has emerged repeatedly was employment opportunities. How does one transform and grow the number of employment opportunities for the state? And one very fascinating paradigm shift there, and by the way, the country is today obsessed with skill development. So we have developed all kind of vocational skilling methods, and you have skill comes first, so again supply comes first, but where is the demand for it? And that's where the shortfall typically is. Versus when you look at what happened in Andhra many years ago, the EGMM, which was demand-led skilling. So the demand came first from a retail sector, then followed skilling. And the demand-driven models of skilling have made a huge difference. And to give you another very fascinating paradigm shift was that in colleges, the first students passing out are not great employees, but employers. How do we create first-generation entrepreneurs? So really the prestige can't be in the number of, today every institute's biggest claim to fame is the first day's salary. Versus how many entrepreneurs did you create? How many employees will come from those people? That's the victory of the day. So really, what are we setting out to do today? What I've tried to paint to you are, where is the transformation needed and what are the paradigm shifts in how we approach it differently? The innovation agenda for the state needs to be, let's identify 3 to 4 clear sectors where we need to make a leap and not merely an improvement, where a transformation is needed. And having done that, how do we approach it differently? With such a great group of minds together, if we can crack that, we can get a first insight into that, that would be a great start. Because really that's what the government needs to focus its agenda on, the 3 to 4 areas where a transformation can make the biggest leap for the state and approaching them differently. That's the paradigm shifts. So let's work together today to do that, and those 2 sets of dialogues today are aimed at doing that. And I hope I painted you enough examples that it can happen and it is happening. The challenge is to do it because of the government and not in spite of it. And I'm hoping today we'll collaborate on that important front. Thank you.